Hi, I'm Brian Rainey, one of the co-founders of Awesome Inc. And I'm here today to talk to you about the lessons that we've learned over the last 15 years of building an entrepreneurial ecosystem across Kentucky. Like every good story though, it starts with the why. And our why goes back to a meeting that we had with President Todd, myself, and co-founder Luke Murray back when we were seniors at the University of Kentucky. President Todd was the president at the time, but he was also a successful entrepreneur, and that was why we were seeking out his advice. We wanted to talk to him about if and how we should go about pursuing our definition of awesome, which was to be an entrepreneur and start our own company. In that meeting, President Todd inspired us and encouraged us that we should just go for it. What he did not do was write us a check. He didn't find us our first customer. He didn't find us our first employee. But what he did do was he gave us the permission and the confidence to go out there to try and even potentially fail at doing our own thing and starting our own company. We were so grateful for that opportunity and what President Todd did for us that a couple years later, we decided to start Awesome Inc. so we could do that for others in the community and just give them the permission to try to pursue their definition of awesome and starting an entrepreneurial venture. Over the last 15 years, we've learned a lot about building community around entrepreneurship. I'm going to share with you 7 of the top lessons that we've learned, as well as a few misconceptions about community building. Lesson number 1, define your values and let them guide your every move. Our core values at Awesome Inc. are be good, be excellent, be a friend, and be you. These core values guide everything that we do. So much so that if we were to do something totally different, let's say we stop Awesome Inc. and we open up a pizza shop across the street, these core values would come off of the wall and they'd go right onto the wall at the pizza shop, and they would guide everything that we did in that business as well. Lesson number 2 is don't recreate what's already been proven to work. In 2008, the year before we opened the doors of Awesome Inc., we took a trip to Boulder, Colorado. We visited all of the entrepreneurial leaders in that community, in particular Techstars, and we were shocked at how transparent and open that they were with everything that they were doing to build up the startup community there in their town. That transparency and openness led to us being able to take a lot of those ideas back to Lexington. It really helped us because we didn't have to recreate things that were already working in communities like Boulder. Later on, we would visit communities like Austin and Nashville and Columbus, and those communities were also open and sharing with us what worked for them. So taking what's worked in other communities and applying that in Lexington has been a huge lesson that we've learned. We haven't had to recreate things from the beginning. The third lesson is to play the long game. One of the reasons that Brad Feld, in his book Startup Communities, says that entrepreneur communities need to be led by entrepreneurs themselves is because entrepreneurs are going to have the long-term view that is necessary. If you think about it, entrepreneurs, if they're to be successful, they're going to be working on their companies for a decade or longer. That's the kind of timeline that it's going to take to build a successful entrepreneur community. Over the past 15 years, we've been able to develop a pipeline for startups at every stage of their entrepreneurial journey. At the very beginning stages, we have things like Startup Weekend and 5 Across. Once you've developed a little bit of traction, we encourage teams to join our fellowship program, which is an accelerator program that lasts 1 year. After that, maybe you're ready to take on some venture funding. We've launched the Awesome Fund, where we'd love to invest in the most promising startups in our region. And for those that are at the pinnacle of their success, we have the Kentucky Entrepreneur Hall of Fame, which we use to celebrate the most successful stories of entrepreneurship across the state of Kentucky. This organization is also used to inspire others to pursue similar ambitious endeavors. A great example of an entrepreneur who has worked their way through this pipeline is Sam Razor of Hippo Manager. In 2013, he pitched at 5 Across. A couple years later, he entered our fellowship program. He later received venture capital from one of our funds. And in 2021, Sam had an exit. Seeing stories like Sam Razor work their way all the way through that pipeline is really inspiring as a community builder. The fourth lesson is find the right partners. We've had a lot of really great partners at Awesome Inc. over the years. I want to highlight one of them, Kinetic by Windstream. We met Tim Williamson, who worked for Windstream at a 5 Across event a few years ago. And the relationship naturally formed in a way that Tim just wanted to give first into our community. So we met with Tim, we found a way for us to partner where Windstream was able to provide free internet to the Awesome Inc. co-working space, and also put together a sponsorship package for events like 5 Across. One of the things that's really important about finding the right partner is that you'll see that they want to give first before they get anything in return. The right partners understand what it means to be a friend. Tim and the team at Windstream, they encapsulated that perfectly within our community. Lesson number 5, build for the market that you want to serve. In 2009, when we were first getting started, my business partners and I scraped more gum off of the carpets of Awesome Inc. than any 20-something-year-old could have possibly consumed in their entire lives. We had turned our space into a venue that was used for rap parties, sorority socials, community events, and the such. And about every weekend around 2 a.m., we would find ourselves sitting on the floor with an ice cube and a knife, scraping gum that was left from the constituents of those parties. Man, there was no better way for us to find out that that was not the type of customer or the type of service that we want to be providing. We had strayed away from our core competency of building an entrepreneurial community because we were trying to be something for everyone. I've seen so many other companies and organizations run into the same problem of trying to be something for everyone, and it doesn't work out. This doesn't mean that you don't listen to your customers or your market. What it does mean is that you have to listen to them, and then you have to decide what customers and what service that you want to provide. The Awesome Fund is a great example of this. When we launched the Awesome Fund about a year ago, we had defined who our target LPs were going to be. They needed to get it, as in understand the mission of Awesome Inc. They needed to align with our core values, and they need to pass the road trip test, which basically means we'll sit in the car with you and have a good time on a 4-hour road trip. It means we maybe had to turn down a few LPs, and it means that we maybe have to not be everything for everyone, but we've had so much more success in launching this fund than we did in earlier initiatives. Lesson number 6, stick to your values. Game will recognize game. Processes can change, but principles don't change. Every organization over enough time is going to be tested as to whether or not they're going to stay consistent to their values. Whether it's money, power, hard times, laziness, you're going to have to decide what it is that's going to drive you and what decisions you're going to have to make in those hard times. And for us, we just turn back to our values. In particular, core value number 4, which says to be you, being yourself. And we just know that if we do the right things, then game will recognize game. Over the last 15 years, we've had to change a lot of our processes and systems at Awesome Inc. But one of the things that we've never changed is our core values and our principles. Lesson number 7, be entrepreneur first. There are lots of stakeholders in an entrepreneurial community, but if you're going to have staying power, then you better be serving the right groups of people. And for us, that has always been the entrepreneurs. So those are 7 of the lessons that we've learned over the last 15 years of building the entrepreneurial community across Kentucky. And here are a few misconceptions that we've bumped into. The first misconception is that our community needs more venture capital. Sure, venture capital is scarce in every community, but you don't actually have to find it in your community. We live in a world where things are so flat that you can look outside of your community to find venture capital these days. Misconception number 2, we need a centralized community. Everything needs to be organized. The community can definitely benefit from being organized, but it's not essential. And action always trumps inaction. Misconception number 3, we need a hierarchy. According to Brad Feld, in his book Startup Communities, this is not only a misconception, but it can be dangerous. Entrepreneurs don't care about power. They only care about impact. Misconception number 4, I should wait until it's perfect before I try. On July 17th, 1955, Disneyland opened its first amusement park. What you may not know about this story is that just before the park opened, there were helicopters flying over top of the asphalt trying to dry it before the guests entered. I'm sure there was someone in the executive boardroom that thought that they were launching too early, but the public didn't care, and it was still a successful launch. So let this be a lesson to anybody launching anything that you should always launch your product early. Misconception number 5, we need to be like Silicon Valley. With over $100 billion unicorn startups, there's a whole lot to envy about Silicon Valley. We can see why people want to emulate things that are going on over there. However, every startup community needs to play to their own strengths. In Lexington, We have a low cost of living. We've got a workforce that wants to work really hard, and a community of people that want to work together to get things done. It's been a great 15 years, and we're looking forward to the next 15 years. I'm so grateful that President Todd sat down with me and gave us permission to try to start our company. That's why we exist, is to give people permission to pursue their definition of awesome.